There are people who rule over this realm and other planets. They are the original humans who have unlocked the key to eternal life. And one day the truth of this fact will become known, as I cannot disclose all the details here. What I can say is that to them, planets are like inheritance, and even given as birthday gifts to their children. Some of them even complain like spoiled children that one planet is not good enough, or that they want another planet instead, just like an ingrate child. To some of them, it's nothing, and planets come and go. To them, reincarnation is when a person is born under the exact same star pattern and alignment as another person in their family from the past. Thus, they have almost the same exact appearance. They can appear intransient. They are so far advanced that their technology cannot be explained. It is only easier to get some kind of idea nowadays because of the rise of science fiction. In days of old, people had no idea what they were seeing, such as demonstrated in various myths, legends, and religious texts, which is why many of them don't make any sense when taken literally. They are even more advanced now than then. They are constantly progressing, just as the people of Earth are progressing. Although at times the people of Earth go backwards into involution, should the Persian bloodlines and Sabbatean Illuminati New World Order, etc. see fit. Sometimes it simply may be due to an inevitable catastrophe that affects everyone and cannot be helped. Other times, it could be some kind of enemy from afar who is an even greater predator than those in charge. What they say goes. Whatever fashion or music is the in thing is because of their decision. One rarely creates something new and then gets noticed for it. As it comes from above, those who are in charge say what is the in thing and what is now out. That is the reality that we live in, and when they want something gone, they will get rid of it, as they have done time and time again. I know this because I have had the opportunity with meeting and speaking with these horrible, selfish, evil people, and I have also had to fight many of them. Yet I couldn't have done it without some help. I have also had the opportunity to meet people of other nations and islands unknown to the general masses, who are good people and want change for the better. They are very intelligent, living under natural law, free from all the garbage and brain rot of this reality that we live in. They are what I call real humans. Most of us would feel pretty dumb around them, although it is simply that most of us are in a stage of ignorance, and so they were understanding of this fact when we spoke together, and revealed to me many things regarding the truth of this realm. Now I share some of these things with others to help wake them up. That is my purpose. My name is Frankie Traino, also known as Shigana or Sigan. I'm an Italian-born Australian with deep roots in Japanese heritage. My lineage traces back to Lord Tyrannus, the ancient founder of the League of 12 City-States of Etruria, a legacy that gave its name to the Tyrrhenian Sea. It is from this ancestral connection that much of my knowledge, insight, and mission arise. Over the years, I have revealed many hidden truths, truths to which challenge accepted history and provoke thought. I have shown, for example, that the story of the 12 tribes of so-called Israel is in fact a retelling of the League of 12 Etruscan cities. I have presented the case that ancient Jerusalem, originally known as Salem, was located not in the Middle East, but in Calabria, southern Italy. I have also proposed that the Leaning Tower of Pisa was once the true Tower of Babel. These are just a few of the many controversial insights I have shared in my videos and writings, including the deeply interconnected Japanese-Etruscan connection. I present the idea that the Etruscans were the original founders of Japan, and that their sacred knowledge continues to flow within its living traditions. What I am about to share with you is not speculation, but the result of decades of study, personal spiritual experience, and ancestral memory. My role is not merely that of a researcher or theorist. I am a living participant in these ancient traditions. This knowledge comes from my bloodline as a descendant of Lord Tyrannus, my initiation into the Oborozuki Ryu clan, the clan of the Hazy Moon, my training under my late master, Hiro Musashi Sensei, whose teachings were passed down to me directly, my lifelong studies in esoteric systems such as Kabbalah, the wisdom of the Sufis, and the living traditions of both Japanese and Etruscan mysticism. I am the founder of the Order of Mercury, of the True Order of Light, and the Shinto Fushin Ryu Dojo, and I teach a system known as OBI-ICHI, Shinto, as well as a philosophy I call Gnostic Paganism. My work is available through books on Amazon and numerous videos online. I make no effort to enter into theological debates or find consensus by debating common ground. What I offer is for those who feel called to truth. You are free to accept or reject it. Yet if you are already awakening, already beginning to glimpse the hidden architecture of this realm, then what follows may help fill in the missing pieces. In this presentation, I will speak of the forgotten kingdoms of Japan, or Zipan, Etruria, and Rome, true rulers of the old world, whose architectural marvels are scattered across this realm. The mystery of the moon, the Tartarian kingdom, and the immortal pantheon of the 13 deities who rule over this reality. The figure of Tsukiyomi-no-Mikoto, the moon god of Japan, who is also a Lalu of ancient Sumeria, Sin, or Hermaphroditus in Roman or Greek, a hermaphroditic being whose names are many, but essence is one. In Japan he appeared as Amida Buddha, one of the 3 Gongen, along with Kannon, the Buddha of Mercy, and Yakushi Nyorai, the medicine master, Tathagata of lapis lazuli light. Gongen literally means provisional manifestation. He refers to the belief that Buddhas or Bodhisattvas manifest themselves as Shinto, kami, gods, or spirits or ancestors, to guide people who might not yet understand Buddhism. This was a way to harmonize Buddhism with native Shinto faith. The kami were not seen as separate from the Buddhas, but as their local appearances, called Honchi Suijaku, original ground of manifested traces. These 3 great Gongen represent the height of Shinbutsu Shugo, the blending of kami and Buddhas in the southern court system. Each site, Kumano, Mount Hiei, and Togakushi Mountain, also known as Togakure Mountain, became a powerful spiritual center, pilgrimage, mountain worship, and esoteric practice. After the Meiji Restoration, 1868, when Shinto and Buddhism were forcibly separated by the Meiji Mutts, the word Gongen was banned, and many shrines had to rename their deities back to kami. Still, the old Gongen belief is remembered in history and traditions such as this one, Obi-Jienzo Shindo. For now, know that Tsukiyomi-no-Mikoto is not only a deity, but also a bodhisattva, a luminous being bridging heaven and earth. So with this in mind, let us begin. May the truths within awaken what already sleeps inside you. At the dawn of Ma, when Shindo was first whispered upon mortal lips, there was a secret hidden in the silver glow of the moon. Tsukiyomi-no-Mikoto, also known as Tsukiyomi-no-Mikami, the unseen hand, wove the threads of fate in the stillness of the night, bending the light of the moon to form the Taizokai, the matrix realm, where shadows of the past whispered of a lineage beyond the reach of mortals. This he did in order to save the world from oblivion. I had learned that the mirror of Tsukiyomi-no-Mikoto is the moon itself. The hidden realm and the fall of the old world. We live within what may be described as a planar sphere, or more precisely a pocket plane. In traditional Japanese Shinto cosmology, this world is not a singular flat reality, but a dimensional tapestry composed of layered realms, all interwoven through unseen pathways. These realms, known as the domains of the Jin nations, Jin, which also means people in Japanese, and goes back to the Jin mentioned in Middle Eastern texts, were once accessible through sacred portals and ancient architecture, built by those who understood the spiritual geometry of the earth. In ages past, these portals allowed for dimensional travel, linking our world to others through the planar sphere. Yet today, these gateways have been sealed. The sacred corridors of the old world have been deliberately closed, barred and concealed as a result of the destruction carried out by a hidden force, the Sabbatean, who now govern through the masks of modern states and global institutions. These Sabbateans are not merely political actors, they are the antithesis of the sacred. They loathe the original royal lineage. They despise the legacy of Rome, the Etruscans, and the Japanese. They are the enemies of the spiritual, the noble, and the morally rooted. Their hatred gave rise to the Illuminati, fueled the French Revolution, which saw the slaughter of divine royalty and laid the foundation of the New World Order. They were nearly vanquished during the Second World War, but the attempt failed, and now the world bears the cost. With this context, we can begin to understand the architecture of the old world, why it holds such power, why it resonates with us so deeply, and why it was deliberately replaced. The original people lived in harmony with the local native tribes who saw them as gods and goddesses when they first arrived in their extravagant clothing and armor, and there are pictures available of this. Here is an antique map depicting people from Renaissance Italy and Native Americans. These Romans rose to a great height and left this world during the Renaissance period due to the rise of the Church of Rome. Here is a Renaissance art depicting lights in the sky. Note, the same kind of architecture we see at the old world fairs, etc. People ask, where did all these people go? Why were all the cities vacant? The truth is, they left this planet. Those who remained were mass murdered during the French Revolution, and their remains can now be seen in the catacombs of Paris. Take its kingdom back from the misguided lies. Cosmism, an introduction to the crystal spheres. The cosmos is an ocean of worlds inside crystal spheres. However, outside the crystal spheres, the ocean itself is composed of nothing but a rainbow ether that sometimes forms rivers between worlds. The gods and goddesses fear this gassy ether. The question is, why? The term actually has two meanings. It is either the space in between the crystal spheres that houses the worlds, or the actual gassy ether that covers it all. Either way, technically speaking, they are all one and the same. The density of this ether, or some would call it ethereal fluid,
fluctuates in the vast void, forming rivers and currents between worlds. As a substance, it is extremely interesting. Quite simply, nobody knows what it is made out of. It is not composed of any material or any element known to any world. The crystal shell that houses every single world is particularly designed to prevent this ether from ever entering, and it does this job very well. The crystal shells cannot be pierced, cracked, or broken, and furthermore cannot be harmed or manipulated by any god or goddess. Natural portals open every so often on the shell that allow passage from one side to the other, so these portals do not let the ether through. All this being said, the reality is that nobody knows what the ether is, and while on that topic, nobody knows who created it and what its purpose actually is. Nobody knows who created the shells that keep the ether out, or what kind of power keeps it from breaking. There are, of course, many dangers that exist within the depths of the ether. The key element with ether in this regard is that it is extraordinarily flammable. Gods and goddesses have no access to the ether. They have no power in the ether. This is why they fear it. People have gathered their own theories as the truth about the ether and the crystal shells that surround all the known worlds. Of these theories, 6 have gained some ground. Quote, 1. The gods and goddesses created the shells and the flow to divide up their territories. Theologians love to advance this argument, but it places some limit on the powers they worship. Space is infinite, even for an omniscient deity, so they broke it up into chaos, the flow, and order, the shell. The shells are easier to handle and more orderly than the swirling chaos outside. The gods and goddesses then divided the spheres up amongst themselves to test good versus evil and law versus chaos. Some demigods have claimed this to be the truth, yet note that they would do so even if it were not so. 2. The gods have gods themselves, which created the cosmos and let them loose in it. A troubling thought, though a school experiencing a rebirth recently experienced their gods and goddesses at very close range and found them wanting. An unprovable theory, since it leads to the obvious light of reasoning. Well, if our gods have gods, why don't we have beings that think of us as gods? 3. The ether is a naturally occurring object. The gods and goddesses created the various shells to settle and domesticate it. The rainbow ocean is like a stream, and the shells are like cities being built along the stream. Eventually the cities will join and the stream disappears entirely. This would explain most godly reluctance to talk about a part of the cosmos, the flow, where their power doth not reach. 4. The gods and goddesses fear the flow and build the shells to keep it out. 5. The gods and goddesses fear mortals and other sentient beings and build the shells to keep them in. 6. The ether and the shells are naturally occurring. The gods and goddesses only moved in and set up shop. Someone or something else built the house, and the gods and goddesses just arrived to move around the furniture. Disliked by theologians because it implies that the powers that be are no more than adventurous interlopers in their own right, playing the last of the most powerful races as saps and suckers with a load of bunk about creating the cosmos. As with the other theories, it cannot be proved. End quote. In the end, most people are divided into 2 main camps. Those that surmise that the crystal shells were created and positioned by the gods and goddesses themselves to protect their worlds from the ravages of the ether. And then there are those who believe that such shells were placed by an even higher authority than the gods and goddesses in order to keep them and mortals inside and confine their activities. The reality is that crystal shells do indeed keep the gods and goddesses inside, where they possess no power over worlds where they don't have a dedicant following. So now, taking it back, to answer the question, why do gods fear space? They fear it because they have no control over it. They have no power over it, and they cannot see in it. It doesn't really seem that the gods and goddesses have the ability to change or manipulate the crystal spheres. This lends credence to those who believe it wasn't made by them, but maybe by some other higher authority. A scary thought, since if anything were to even happen to the crystal spheres, and ether were to get inside, it would mean complete annihilation for both immortals and mortals alike. The ether would touch the sun and create an explosion so big that it would destroy all the planets inside, killing every living member within the sphere, and with no mortals in their realms, the gods and goddesses would lose their powers and also die.
Solid granite and ridiculously solid.
It's a crystal, nothing more.